I don't need to tell you that we live in troubled times. Recent polling shows that 8 in 10 Americans are concerned about the prospect of political violence in this country. The anxiety is present in both major parties. Of course, we're all thankful and relieved that the midterms were peaceful and orderly, but the threat of political violence is never far from the surface. In fact, our concern about this seems to be part of a generalized anxiety about the future of America. Liberals fear the erosion of democratic norms, as well as a perceived swing toward authoritarianism and ethnic and Christian nationalism. Conservatives fear the erosion of traditional values like faith and family, as well as an observed shift toward secularism, socialism, and globalism. However accurate these perceptions may or may not be, the social turmoil is real. So is the fear. As unlikely as it sounds, a prophet living 2,700 years ago may have said something that can help us face the present moment with faith, courage, and resolve. I'm reading from the book of Isaiah, chapter 11. A shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. His delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. The wolf shall live with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze. Their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put its hand on the adder's den. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. On that day, the root of Jesse shall stand as a signal to the peoples. The nations shall inquire of him, and his dwelling shall be glorious. The word of the Lord. The prophet Isaiah preached during the turbulent times of the latter half of the 8th century before Christ. He had access to the royal court of the southern kingdom of Judah, and he was thoroughly acquainted with both domestic and international issues. He was politically savvy. He was quite unafraid to offer his counsel to kings and subjects alike. Early in his career, he looked on in shock as the rising superpower Assyria overthrew the kingdom of Israel and deported most of its population to distant lands. 20 years later, he was actually in Jerusalem when Assyrian King Sennacherib III invaded Judah, looted its towns and villages, laid siege to Jerusalem, and mocked King Hezekiah's faith in God's protection. But then, inexplicably, Sennacherib called off the siege and went home. To the desperate people of Jerusalem, that seemed like a miraculous divine deliverance. Shortly thereafter, around 700 BCE, Isaiah died. But he left behind a band of disciples who for 200 years preserved, collected, edited, and updated his sermons. The whole edited collection, along with later editions, make up what we know as the book of Isaiah. So it's not easy sometimes to make out what is going on in any given text. You're never quite sure what time period it comes from or what circumstances it's referring to. I'm going to give it a shot, but I want to mention this incremental aspect of the book of Isaiah right at the outset, because it becomes important when we try to apply its lessons to our present moment. A shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. Jesse was the father of the great King David, the founder of a dynasty that ruled over Israel right down to the time of Isaiah and beyond. Under David's competent rule, Israel grew and prospered. It was like a big, flourishing tree. But when his son Solomon died and civil war broke out, 10 northern tribes broke away to form their own kingdom called Israel. The tree had some of its best branches lopped off. When Assyria conquered Israel and deported its citizens, the whole top of the tree's trunk was sawed off. David's descendants ruled in Jerusalem over the southern kingdom of Judah. When Sennacherib later laid siege to Jerusalem, but then mysteriously withdrew, Judah was safe. And David's descendant Hezekiah was still on the throne. Whew. That was a close call. According to Isaiah, this greatly reduced kingdom is the stump of Jesse, which will sprout a royal branch, a very special king. Maybe Isaiah envisioned godly Hezekiah as the ideal king who would revive the kingdom. Or maybe it would be Hezekiah's son Manasseh. Whoever it was, the ruler was destined to accomplish the impossible. This ruler will be different from all others. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. Because God's Spirit controls him, he will have the practical wisdom necessary to make daily decisions and the discernment required to see below the surface, to learn how things really work and what people are really about. Because his knowledge is so complete, his plans will work. He shall not judge by what his eyes see or decide by what his ears hear. In making policy, he will not be swayed by simplistic slogans or fooled by malicious falsehoods. Above all, his primary motivation will be pleasing God. This ruler will govern differently from all others. With righteousness he shall judge the poor and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. His policies regarding the poor and underserved will be just and equitable. He will abolish practices that give the rich and powerful unfair advantage over the poor and weak. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. Equipped with justice and truth, this warrior will do battle with all forms of injustice. You will be able to count on him to do the right thing every time. Violence will be repudiated as a means to resolve differences. Life in this ruler's kingdom will be different from life in all others. The wolf shall lie with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the kid. violence has no place in this kingdom. The cow and the bear shall graze, the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The rich will no longer live sumptuously at the expense of the poor. Everyone will share resources, and there will be enough for everybody. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put its hand on the adder's den. The weakest, most innocent creatures in the world will play safely around the hole of the cobra or viper. Children will be safe. Safe. What a fabulous vision of a righteous ruler and of wise and just rule. Fabulous is just about the right word. It's the stuff of fables. You see, it never happened. Hezekiah was a devout and faithful king, but his rule never measured up to these expectations. His son Manasseh was a total disappointment. The vision never materialized. So apparently Isaiah's pronouncement was a failed prophecy. Now we come back to the incremental nature of the book of Isaiah. As we said, over a period of 200 years, disciples of Isaiah preserved, collected, edited, and updated Isaiah's sermons. His disciples knew that their master's vision of the ideal ruler and of righteous and just rule never materialized. So, why did they leave this failed prophecy in the collection? I think they left it in, not because it was a failed prophecy, but because they believed it to be an unfulfilled promise. A vision of the way that our world will someday be. I think Isaiah's vision is utopian. It describes a state of ideal perfection in laws, government, and social conditions. Many of us are dismissive of utopias. That's impossible, we protest. That can never happen. It's utopian. We mean it's hopelessly impractical and improbable. But I'm not so sure about that. I think that Isaiah and his successors understood the power of a utopian vision. A utopian vision is like a lodestar, a star that leads and inspires us as we make our way in the darkness. It's our North Star that orients and encourages us as we sail across uncharted and turbulent seas. We need that North Star, maybe more now than ever. "700 years after Isaiah departed this earth, a young Galilean girl gave birth to a baby boy. He grew up to be a prophet, healer, and reformer. Understanding the power of Isaiah's utopian vision, he spent his short life following that lodestar, seeking the way toward that better world, the world in which truth, righteousness, justice, peace, and love reign. The Galilean preacher died very young at the hands of hard-bitten skeptics. But his followers convinced that he lived on in their midst, and with their gaze fixed on that lodestar, went out to tell the world about the vision and to help make it a reality. We are their heirs. As we seek to follow Isaiah's vision today, we should understand that there is one huge difference between our world and the world of Isaiah. In Isaiah's day, people had no say in who would occupy the throne in Jerusalem or how the kingdom should be governed. You got what you got. In fact, that's the way it's been down through history. Only a tiny slice of humanity has ever had any say about anything. But living as we do in a democracy, we not only have a say in who will govern us, but also in how we want to be governed. In this sense, then, to a great extent, we can choose our own future. What a blessing! What a burden. So as we navigate turbulent seas and troubled times, let us fix our gaze on the lodestar that Isaiah has given us. Let us choose leaders who are wise and discerning, true and faithful, leaders who do what is right every time, especially for those who are least able to defend themselves. Leaders who repudiate the use of violence to resolve differences. Let us insist on policies that ensure that all have resources sufficient to live free from want. Laws that protect the weak. Rules that keep us safe in our schools, churches and synagogues, stores and neighborhoods. As difficult as the present moment is, as frightening as it seems, with God's help, we can face it with faith, courage, and resolve, keeping our gaze firmly fixed on the lodestar.